Okay, I'm going to go ahead and call the September 25th regular board meeting to order and ask everyone to please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Roll call, please.
Trustees Kashaba.
Present.
Trustee Saturn.
Present.
Trustee Narodowski.
Present.
Trustee Ingraffia. Absent. Supervisor Sweeney.
Present. Okay, public comment. If you just step up to the podium, that'd be great.
Hello, how do the auditors check the inventory systems?
Thank you. We can have, if you want to touch base with Paul, he can get you those answers. Thank you. Okay, if you want to just step up over by the podium, that'd be great.
Supervisor Sweeney, I'm more directing my comments to you this evening. Last week, you called my mayor, and you had a conversation as it related to me. And as it was then relayed to me by my mayor, you said the following. You said that my attendance at these board meetings, that I was a disruptive force by coming to the meetings, and by being a disruptive force, it could affect the land swap vote. I was surprised. The mayor asked me if there was something I should know, and I said, I don't think so. So, a couple of things. First, I think your statement about me being a disruptive force at your meetings is not accurate.
That was never said, but okay.
Well, you said it to an elected official. But with that said...
I did not say that, but okay.
Okay. This is how it was relayed to me. So a couple of things. One, whether or not you said it to him is between the two of you. But that's how it was relayed to me. Those words.
Okay.
And I asked several times, and I wrote it down. With that said, that's a defamation of character. It's a defamation of character. Second of all, to me, for you to state, especially to an elected official, that my disruptive presence could affect a vote and
Again, I did not say that.
Me.
Okay, I
Excuse
did not,
me.
I want to just
Why don't
clear
you
the
let me
record.
finish and then
Okay.
you can
Then
rebut?
you can say it.
Okay.
For you to say that my presence, as disruptive as it may be, could sway a vote, and a particular vote nonetheless, I don't understand. Why wouldn't, if I was a disruptive vote, why wouldn't it affect the 7-Eleven Chelmsford property? Why would it not affect the daycare center? All of the things that are in my community, not just the land swap vote. So it's kind of an extortion of such. The inference is if, Mr. Mayor, if you can get her to not come to these meetings, or at least to explain to her that she's this way, then maybe that's not how the end result will be. So I guess now my question to you is, I went back and I looked at the meeting in August and the meeting in September. The 2 meetings prior to that, I was not present. So how is it, or can you specifically tell me what it is that I have done for you to consider to be any type of a disruptive force of any sort at these meetings?
The statement's not accurate, that's, so.
Okay, so what was your statement to the mayor then?
It was a private conversation with the mayor. The things you said, I did not say to the mayor. So
So you're saying that my mayor is not being truthful?
if he relayed different language, then I had a private conversation with the mayor, so.
So in other words, then you're not going to answer the question?
I've answered it. What you're saying is not what was said, so. Okay,
So if I follow up with the mayor,
sure.
he's going to say something different? because these are the words that he stated to me exactly. I
Well, if
wrote
those
them
are
down.
his words, they're not my words. If those were his words, they're not mine.
Okay, so I'm not being a disruptive force.
Never,
Am I
no.
being any kind of a force?
No, I wish we would have more attendance of meetings of everybody.
So you're saying that basically the whole premise of the conversation was not accurate?
Correct.
Thank you.
There was an article in the Daily Herald on the 7th of this month. It was, I thought kind of negative, but there was a quote that said, "Taxpayers and voters should watch carefully for a change of attitude on this board. If that doesn't happen soon, then the next change should be who serves on the board." And I wondered if anybody has any comments about that, whose quote that was. The article didn't have a byline, so I don't know who wrote it.
I think that it's
an
from
editorial
the-
comment.
Yeah, it's the editorial board that wrote that,
Okay.
of the paper.
And do any of you have thoughts about
I
this?
wrote a letter,
You wrote a letter?
yes.
Okay.
All right, I don't know if I have the copy of the letter, but it was printed.
Yeah?
Okay.
Yeah, I just didn't appreciate their comments treating all of us on the board the same.
Yeah, and I don't know why it's suggested that board members need to change versus maybe some needs to change, but the little infighting and all that, maybe.
Well, I don't have a copy of it, but I will certainly send you. But
Okay.
it was slanted against me. The editorial board never never called me for a comment or anything, and that's why I wrote a letter, and it was printed twice, where I've always been very fiscally conservative and everything else, and I was very concerned about
It
some
seemed-
spending.
Yeah, negative and
Yes,
kind of
and that
childish.
was-
If you
that was
tit
my-
for tat, I mean,
Well, that was my letter, that there was $12,000 was spent on something I thought that could have been done for free. The cost and everything of what we're spending to have these video
video,
recordings.
$1,750. I'd also like
Well,
to say, I know a videographer would probably do it for a couple $100. Nothing against you, sir.
Yeah, I
but-
mean, you could use a
That
cell
was my
phone.
decision.
Whether or
I
not
was
it
given
was.
the authority to make that decision. I made that decision. If you want to talk to me afterwards as to why, I can explain it to you.
Okay.
But I just thought there was excessive spending, and that's what some of the fighting is about. And that, I did write a letter, and if you want to give me your email, I can send it to you.
Okay.
All right?
Yes, thank you
Okay.
so much.
You're welcome.
Okay, any other public comment? Okay, can I have a motion to move into executive session to discuss the sale of Elk Grove Township real property at 401 West Gulf Mount Prospect, 711 Chelmsford, Elk Grove Village, 2400 South Arlington Heights Road, Arlington Heights.
So moved.
Moved by trustee Saturn, seconded by trustee Nuredowski.
Roll call.
We have to do a roll call vote, so,
Just so you know that I found the administrator and I were going through some things, and we discovered that for the closed sessions, executive sessions, we got to do a roll call, not just a voice vote. So trustee Kashaba,
Aye.
trustee Saturn,
Aye.
trustee Nuredowski. Aye. Trustee Sweeney.
aye.
Supervisor Sweeney.
Yep. All right, we'll be back shortly. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and call the regular board meeting back to order and ask the clerk to call the roll.
Trustee Kashaba,
Present.
trustee Saturn,
Present.
trustee Nuredowski. Present. Supervisor Sweeney.
Present. Okay, you've had a chance to review the minutes from July 24th, August 28th, and September 6th.
There is one adjustment to July 24th. It's been corrected in the minutes that I've assigned here, but on July 24th, the section D under the supervisor, it says January, and it should say June. There's two January, second and third sentences. Those should be changed to,
I also had one other thing on those. Page 3, old business, section A,
okay?
the third from the last line, it says, Supervisor Sweeney stated that the salaried employees could, cannot get either. So I think it's supposed to be
Where's it?
just
It's,
one of those.
Section A, the third from the bottom?
Yeah.
Could, cannot, okay.
Cannot get either.
Could not.
Okay.
Okay, so can is taken out.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay, any other additions or changes, corrections? Okay, I will accept a motion to approve them individually or all together.
Make a motion to approve all of them.
Our motion was made to approve all of the minutes. It was made by trustee Saturn. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Seconded by trustee Nuredowski. Any further discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
This is as
Aye.
amended, right?
Opposed? Motion carries, yes. Okay, presentations, annual audit, Frank from Costabile and Steffens.
Hello,
Right.
There.
thank you guys for having me here. Frank Costabile and Steffens. We wrapped up the audit a couple weeks ago. There's 4 things, just to go over what we do for you guys. We do the annual audit report. We do a required communication letter to the board, which points out if there's any significant deficiencies or problems through the audit. We come up with the management letter comment, which compares the board to the township to the ideal system to see if there's any things you guys can implement. And we do the annual financial report, which gets filed with the state of Illinois. Normally, that report is due September 27th, which is like in a day or two. And the state does not have their system up and running yet. So we've requested
I'm shocked.
a 60-day. We've been on, since we finished the audit in early August, we've been contacting them monthly, and they're supposed to now, I think, send the letter out to Paul and Erica and let them know when we can, we're done. We just have to upload the report into their system. But those are the 4 things that we do for you. And as soon as we get the AFR system up, we'll get that turned around within a week or 2. So we'll go over the 3 things first. The first is the audit. I just want to thank Paul and Erica for getting the information to us on a timely basis, so we were able to get through the work, and all the questions that we had were answered very well, and all the documentation that we requested was given to us in a timely manner. The opinion on the township is in the highest level of assurance. There's no qualifications, so it's the highest level of opinion you can reach. And inside the report, there's only really a couple pages that I like to point out, which I've done in the past. It's on pages 5. Basically, page 5 is the balance sheet of the governmental funds, which is the general fund, the general assistance, and the road bridge fund. And basically, the main thing to concentrate on there is the fund balances. You can see that all 3 of those funds have very healthy fund balances, which shows that the township is overall managing their funds well. And then on page 7,
They didn't, no, they didn't.
on page 7, you can show, those are the revenues and expenses. So you can see by fund, the revenues and expenses that came in for fiscal year 2017 and the expenses. And all 3 of them had, the revenues exceeded the expenses. So you're not operating in a deficit in any one of those funds. And then similarly, on pages 9, that's the proprietary fund, the sewer fund. That's the balance sheet. You can see there's a healthy fund balance in that one as well. And the page right following that is page 10, which shows again a positive change in position. So again, not operating in the deficit, so good use of your funds. That's really all I had. Comments on the financial statements. Any questions on that? And we'll move to the letters.
There was no adverse findings and
No adverse findings, no? Okay, so the 2 letters, I guess to differentiate the 2, the one that says Board of Trustees, Elk Grove Township at the top, significant audit findings, right about a third of the way down on the top. We'll start with this one. Basically, this is where we have to list out if there were any significant audit findings, and there weren't. We list out the significant estimates. The largest significant estimate was the estimate for the useful lives in the capital assets. We have to say if there's any difficulties performing the audit. There were none. Any corrected and uncorrected mistakes. The only ones that we found were the ones that the township had asked us to make. There were a couple things that we do every year for them. We booked the depreciation for them. Any disagreements with management? There were none. Did we have to consult with anyone else outside our firm for any complex issues with the audit of the township? There were none of those as well. So that's the first one. Any questions on that letter? Okay, and then the last letter, which I was asked to go over in a little bit more detail. So what we do on our audits is we compare the township to an ideal system, and we come up with maybe some ideas to improve operations or the way you're doing things, or not all these have to get implemented, but these are just comments and suggestions. We come up with this letter every year. So the first one has to do with the trial balances. In the past, management letter comments, there were 2 funds that were being maintained in an Excel spreadsheet. So last year, we recommended that you do it in the computer system, so you did it. When they originally put in I know it's going to get complicated with accounting, but the beginning balances weren't put in to tie to last year's audited financial statement. So they were off.
Those were put in.
So it was unique, but
In other words, they were corrected, but they were not put in properly, the opening trial balance.
that's exactly right.
I'm an accountant. so
Oh,
I
you are?
understand.
Okay, yep.
Go ahead.
Yep. So the revenues and expenses during the year were good, but it made it out of balance. The system let you do a one-sided entry, so it was out of balance.
Not a good thing.
Not a good thing. So the recommendation was for them to adjust it, which, I don't know if I'm supposed to speak on that already, but I think that's already been adjusted before we met tonight. Got adjusted a couple weeks ago. Page 2, capital assets. So back when calculators used to cost $500, people would capitalize them. So our recommendation is to maybe increase the value of when you're going to capitalize. We didn't put an amount in here. If you wanted, I can tell you the IRS put out, for audited financial statements, they've accepted a minimum of $5,000. So I'm not saying that you guys need to accept it, but I'm just letting you know the thresholds have been moved up significantly.
Good
So
idea.
we're not tracking every little.
And also with the de minimis, safe harbor and everything.
That's exactly right. The third item is vendor invoices. So we select 20, 30 invoices during the year, and we check them to make sure it's got all the proper documentation, everything ticks and ties to the general ledger. The only recommendation here is, which I think has already been implemented, is getting a stamp, which we'd put down the account number, so you know if everyone pulled an invoice, what expense account it was supposed to be, who approved it, and all those things. And I think that's, again, already been implemented before this meeting. And then the last section is payroll. So we test a couple employees every year, not that you have that many employees, and we found that one of them didn't have their W-4 in there, and that's been tracked down and put in there. And then the last thing, I know Paul is salaried, but we said that maybe somebody, because Paul approves the payroll, that maybe somebody other than Paul should approve his timesheet. That's it. So those are our only comments that we had. Any questions about that letter?
Do we have to do a letter of corrective action? Or?
You do not. Nope. If we had significant deficiencies like that first one, then it would be recommended, but these are just comments. I just would like to know if these are going to implement or not, so I don't bring them up again in the following year. So that's all.
Okay. Additional questions for Frank?
Thank you.
Okay. Thank you very much, everyone.
Thanks, Frank.
And Erica, thank you. You're doing a
Thank you,
great
Erica.
job.
Yeah.
Okay, also, health insurance for 2018, Michael Balin.
Hi, everybody. I'm Michael Balin. I'm with the company Alliant Mesirow Insurance Services, and we're an insurance broker in both the property and casualty and employee benefit spaces. And we are the advisors and consultants for the insurance programs that Elk Grove Township has. I specifically work in the employee benefits arena. So today we're going to talk about the employee benefits program that Elk Grove Township offers. And included in that program is group medical insurance, which we'll spend the vast majority of our time today talking about, group dental insurance, and there's also an HSA or health savings account component tied to the medical insurance. So first things first, the group medical plan or program that Elk Grove Township offers, it renews December 1st, 2017. And for the board's consideration, the deadline to make decisions about which plans to move forward with, employee contributions, things of that sort, that is due by November 1st. So we still have a little bit of time, but November 1st is the deadline.
Is the deadline for correct changes, you said?
For changes, correct, with Blue Cross Blue Shield, who's the carrier. I think to start, One thing I did want to talk about is the ever ongoing debate about healthcare reform and the future of healthcare in this country. So it's hard to open up a paper, social media site, pretty much anything, without people talking about healthcare reform. So far, nothing has been passed federally to change the Affordable Care Act. For Elk Grove Township, the Affordable Care Act still is the law of the land. But if that changes, that's something that we and our legal team is staying on top of. So if anything does change, we'll be sure to let you guys know, and then to make any corrective action to make sure that the township stays in compliance. But the two big things that conservatives are trying to do away with are the employer mandate and the individual mandate. So as it stands right now, individuals in this country, they all have to have health insurance, and if they don't, they need to pay a penalty. And then also large employers, of which Elk Grove Township is not one, they need to offer affordable minimum value health insurance to their full-time employees. And then if they don't, they also need to pay a fine. But again, Elk Grove Township is not considered an applicable large employer, so that does not apply to you guys. In front of you, board members, is a packet here that outlines the group renewal. And if you guys want to go to tab 5, I thought we'd start the conversation with what we call benchmarking data. So before we get into the specifics of Elk Grove Township's plan, I wanted to talk about some benchmarking data so you guys can compare what Elk Grove Township is doing compared to other municipalities, government agencies, and employers of similar size. So we get this information from a company called United Benefit Advisors, which is an organization of brokers all over the country that share information about employee benefit programs of clients all over the country. So if you flip through it, there's over 11,000 employers and over 19,000 health plans. So it's a pretty large sample size. If you continue to flip through, on page 3 of this tab, this talks about what's called a Milliman Medical Index. So this talks about just the overall cost of healthcare across the country. So the bearer of bad news is that Chicagoland is the 3rd most expensive health insurance market in the country, behind only Miami and New York City. We've broken out this information in terms of regions as well. So West Coast, East Coast, South. Chicago's in the Midwest. So plans in that area include Michigan, Wisconsin, Illinois, Indiana, the western half of Pennsylvania. So that's going to be the geographical area that we're going to be talking about the most today. If you flip to page 5, this tab here talks about the overall annual active medical cost per employee. So what we did here was we took a look at every employee, the cost associated with every employee in each plan, added those numbers up and divided by how many people were in that plan. So you'll see the HSA plan that has a $2,600 deductible is up at $16,000. But actually, if you were to combine all these together, the average annual cost is around $11,400, which is a little bit closer to benchmark. Page 6 talks about the percentage of employees that have dependents on the plan. So Elk Grove Township is at 29%. Benchmarks in the small group segment is 39%. In the region, it's 52%. So actually, Elk Grove Township was a little bit below the benchmark in terms of that. Consumer-driven health plans. So Elk Grove Township offers 3 medical plans, all of which are considered consumer-driven health plans or HSA plans. Page 8 talks about just average total premium in the region, in the employer size segment. So the average cost for single coverage is between $461 and $496. This is actually a little bit understated because the data that we have is calendar year 2015 data. 2016 data has not been released yet. So it's a little bit outdated, and medical costs obviously continue to rise. So that number of 461 to 496 is a little bit under what the average cost is today. And then next to it, you can see the average cost for family coverage. Page 9 talks about deductibles. So Elk Grove Township has 3 plans, all of which have 3 different deductibles for an individual. The first has a $2,600 deductible, the second is a $3,500 deductible, and the other one has a $4,000 deductible. Next slide talks about coinsurance. What coinsurance is the amount that the carrier pays claims after the deductible is met. So for in-network services, the benchmark is anywhere from, or right around 100%. One plan that Elk Grove Township has 100% coinsurance after deductible. The other has 90%, and the other has 80%. Page 11 talks about total out-of-pocket. So the out-of-pocket is a number that is the maximum that an employee would pay out of his or her own pocket for medical expenses during a given year, and this includes the deductible. So for single, that number is between $4,000 and $5,000. For Elk Grove Township, the number ranges from $3,500 to $6,000. And again, that's for single. So again, that was probably not the most intriguing and exciting conversation, but that is some benchmarks that we wanted to share with the board and the township to show you where Elk Grove is compared to other similar employers. Tab 6. So tab 6 lists the spreadsheets for the renewal with Blue Cross Blue Shield, 2 alternate programs with Blue Cross Blue Shield, and then also a competitive quote from United Healthcare. So to start, on page 1, and towards the bottom right-hand corner actually lists the page numbers, but page 1 outlines the renewal. So keeping everything the same, not changing the medical plans, the increase is 28%. If the township renews on an age-rated basis, and it's 27% if they renew on a composite basis. So we talked about this last year. The township currently has age-banded premiums, so every employee has a different premium depending on age. So the younger the employee, the less expensive the premium. The older the employee, the more expensive the premium.
Sorry, would you say the two groups again? It's age and
Oh,
what?
composite.
Composite.
Composite, yeah. So age-banded, age-rated, and composite. What composite is Blue Cross takes a look at your existing age-banded premiums, and they deliver a blended average of those rates. So they approximately should add up to the same number. In this scenario, they're within 1%, but it's a blended average. So under composite rated, you'll have a price for employee, a price for employees plus spouse, children, and family. Now for the board to consider, under an age-banded structure, the increase is universally applied towards every employee. So that increase varies between plans, but if a plan's going up 27%, everybody's premium is going to go up 27%. Under a composite structure, the effect varies widely. So some employees would actually benefit from a composite rated structure. Their premiums would go down. Other employees would not benefit from a composite structure, and their rates would go up considerably.
There's some here going up 125, 150%.
That's a lot.
Yeah.
So that 27% or 26.89 is, that's the average, but there's, on the composite, but there's a lot of variability within specific individuals.
Exactly.
While on the other one, the 28.19, that is across the board for everyone.
Correct, correct. Now, a renewal of 28%, unfortunately, is about the norm for employers of this size in Cook County. So surrounding counties, Lake, Will, Kane County, they were not hit nearly as hard as Cook County was. But just like gasoline's more expensive in Cook County, sweetened beverages are now more expensive in Cook County, and healthcare being delivered in Cook County is also more expensive. So again, that first page there, that's the renewal without changing the plans. Page 2, or option 1. So this is a proposed alternative that's a little bit less expensive than the renewal. So what we did on option 1 is we eliminated Plan 1, or G512 PPO. So we removed that plan. But we kept S500 PPO and kept G520 PPO. So we kept a plan with a $4,000 deductible, kept a plan with a $3,500 deductible, and eliminated the plan with a $2,600 deductible, which was the most expensive plan leading into this renewal. We then instituted a new plan Design 3, which has a $6,400 deductible. And then for this illustration, we assumed that people in Plan 1 would stay on Plan 1, people in Plan 2 would stay in 2, and 3 and 3. And if this change was implemented, that increase would go down to, on an age-rated basis, would go down to 18.76%. Composite, it would go up to the increase would be 17.48%. Before I continue, does anybody have any questions for me? Page 3 is option 2. And option 2 is pretty similar to option 1. So we keep the $4,000 deductible plan. We keep the $3,500 deductible plan. And then instead of the $6,400 deductible plan, we've shown what's called a blue options plan. So this is S503 OPT. And what this plan is, it is a plan that utilizes 2 networks with Blue Cross. So right now, every plan the township has utilizes the large nationwide PPO network. This Blue Options plan utilizes the PPO network, so employees would still have access to the PPO network, but they would also have access to the Blue Choice network, which is a local Chicagoland network that is considerably smaller than PPO. And the way that the plan is organized is that employees would be incentivized to see Blue Choice providers through richer benefits. So
How plentiful are these providers?
there's still a lot of providers,
Okay.
but that was a vague answer. But the big exclusions in Blue Choice are the larger teaching facilities, especially downtown. So Northwestern, Rush, University of Chicago, Children's, they are all not in Blue Choice, but they are in PPO.
And that Blue Choice network is represented in the third set of numbers on the individual family deductible coinsurance.
Yeah, so the plan on the spreadsheet looks a little bit different. So instead of 2 columns, it's 3
Right, so
columns.
3, and that's, the third column is the Blue Choice.
The first column is Blue
First column
Choice.
is the Blue Choice,
Yep.
okay.
So the first column is Blue Choice, second column is PPO, and the third column is out of network.
Okay.
So you'll see if someone is enrolled in this plan and they stay within the Blue Choice network, it's a $2,800 deductible and 100% coinsurance after that. It's a very rich benefit but you have a smaller network. If that same employee were to go to a PPO doctor, deductible's $4,500 with 80% coinsurance, and the out-of-pocket is $6,450.
So do you technically have like two separate deductibles, a Blue Choice deductible and a PPO deductible?
So they accumulate together,
Okay.
but they are different numbers. So an example would be, let's say I'm on this plan, and I only go to Blue Choice providers, and I hit my Blue Choice deductible of $2,800, like to the cent. And then I say, well, I need to get something checked out, I need a second opinion, I want to go to Northwestern. That deductible is $4,500, but I've already met $2,800 of it. So they're two separate numbers, but they accumulate together. So you're not satisfying separate buckets. They accumulate together. So I know this plan is a little bit different than plans offered in the past, but it's priced competitively, and frankly, it gives employees, I think, a little bit of, they're empowered a little bit to control their healthcare spending. So instead of just having a standard PPO deductible, if they thought that number was too high, this kind of plan would empower someone to say, okay, I'll go to a Blue Choice doctor and I'll get better benefits.
Excuse me, any place in this presentation, does it give a list of what the Blue Choice medical facilities are? Because I know my employees want to know what they were.
Sure. So it is not in this presentation. It is available. We do have it, and it can also be looked up online on Blue Cross's website. But we can provide that. And this option 2, if adopted, it would take the increase down to, on an age-banded basis, to 15.65%. So one thing that we do every year or that my company does every year is, in addition to evaluating options within Blue Cross Blue Shield, we market Elk Grove Township's medical plan to other carriers to see if that might be a good fit for the township. So we approached, or we considered 3 carriers. 2 were not competitive. Humana was not competitive, and Aetna was not competitive. And they weren't even close to being competitive. It would have been 50, 60, 70% above current. And frankly, I thought that was a non-starter for our conversation. United Healthcare was and is competitive. So in the past, at least in calendar year 15 and 16, Blue Cross in the fully insured market was really the most competitive and the only competitive carrier for employer groups. United Healthcare has since dropped their rates beginning this year, and they are competitive. And for the township, they're more competitive than Blue Cross Blue Shield is.
But our Northwest Community Hospital is not a non-network hospital. Right, if I'm
Yeah.
reading this right?
Only on one of the plans.
Okay,
But
okay.
we'll get into that.
Okay.
Similar to Blue Choice, United Healthcare also has a smaller network too. So as we were evaluating United Healthcare, we tried to illustrate this as apples to apples as we could. The plans are not identical, but they are similar. So if you go to page 4, this is United Healthcare's proposal. And before getting into the plan specifics, it takes the increase down to 7.77% above current. Now, one major difference with United Healthcare is that for employer groups that have at least 10 people enrolled, the only billing or rating structure that they have is composite rating. So you'll see next to employees, some go up, some go down. It's very similar to the composite rates with Blue Cross. These plans do not need to be medically underwritten. So we do not need the employees to fill out health applications. This does not need to go to United Healthcare's underwriting department. The only thing that could change the rates is if enrollment changes. So if you go through open enrollment and people come off, people come on, dependents change, that could and probably would change the rates. So while these rates are firm, they're not final. So the three plans that are shown here on page 4, just like with Blue Cross, they're all consumer-driven health plans, or they're all HSA plans. Excuse me. So Plan 1, this plan has a $2,000 deductible, and it's 100% coinsurance after that. So compared to Plan 1 now with Blue Cross, this plan is actually better. It has richer benefits. Another difference is with prescription drugs and office visit copays. So under your current plans, employees pay the full cost of the visit until the deductible is met and until the out-of-pocket is met. With United Healthcare on this plan, you would still pay the full cost of the visit until you reach your deductible. Then after the deductible is hit, that's when copays would actually kick in. So if I were an employee and I was on this plan, I would pay up to my $2,000 deductible. And then if I went to see a doctor, after I hit my deductible, I would then pay a $30 or a $60 copay. And that kind of program would also exist with prescription drugs. So I'd pay the full cost of the drug until deductible. Then after deductible, I'd either pay $15, $40, or $70 for prescription medications. Plan Design 2 with United Healthcare. This has a $2,700 deductible, 80% coinsurance, with an out-of-pocket of $6,350. Again, similar to Blue Cross, but not identical. And then the third plan design is I'll call it catastrophic coverage. It's a $6,500 deductible with 100% coinsurance after that. And again, this is a 7.77% increase.
But there could be doctors not in this plan that are in the Blue Cross Blue Shield.
Yes. So the networks that we used on that first United Healthcare option, so their large nationwide PPO network is called Choice Plus, which is almost identical to Blue Cross's PPO network. If there is disruption, it won't be very much, but there could be doctors in Blue Cross that are not in United Healthcare.
And that can be looked up on the website.
It can. And then on page 5, this is the second program that we quoted from United Healthcare, and Plan 1 and 2 are the same as on page 4. And the third plan design is a HSA plan with a different network. So instead of Choice Plus, this is Core. So Core is essentially United Healthcare's Blue Choice equivalent. Local network, much smaller, larger teaching facilities are not in the network. So actually, if you flipped over a couple pages, we included a kind of a one-pager that talks about what some of the big non-network hospitals are with Core. So Children's Memorial, Elmhurst Memorial, North Shore University Health System, Northwest Community, which is a big one, especially in Arlington Heights. They do not participate in the Core network, but they are in United Healthcare's Choice Plus network.
And those select co-pays are after the deductibles met on those select programs.
Exactly. So does anybody have any questions for me? Questions about Blue Cross United Healthcare? Maybe anything I can answer?
It's kind of fair to say that these increases are only if everyone picks the exact same plan they have now. But technically, maybe people in these richer plans could say, I actually want to go down to one of the less richer plans, and then the increase would not be as high.
Absolutely.
So it's just a
Okay.
Yep.
guess.
So when we go through open enrollment, that's when employees can decide what they want to do. And that's the one time of the year where you can add dependents, drop dependents, change plans, no questions asked. But Erica, you're right. So this is how it looks now. But usually in open enrollment, we get a handful of people that change plans, so it'll look a little bit different after we go through open enrollment.
We're still planning to have the employee counseling, correct? Where you can sit down and explain. Yeah.
Absolutely.
So open enrollment is after November 1st, because we have to have this decided.
Right. So we usually will have a decision made by the board, and then in early November, probably to about Thanksgiving, will be the open enrollment period for employees. And that gives us time to make changes and make sure the employees are set up correctly before December 1st. The last page in this tab is a kind of a snapshot of what the employer and employee contributions are for each plan, as well as what the HSA funding dollars are for each employee paid for by the township. So the employer or Elk Grove's HSA dollars that they contribute differ depending on which plan you take. So the more expensive the plan that you pick, the less of an HSA contribution employees get. And then towards the bottom, you'll see what the employer and employee contribution splits are. So for Plan 1 or G512 PPO, Elk Grove pays 85% for employee only. The employee pays 15%. And then for Plan 2 and Plan 3 or S500 and G520, Elk Grove pays 95% for employee only, and employees pay 5%. That institution of the 5% contribution was new beginning last year. Then family coverage or dependent tiers is a 50-50 split between the employee and and Elk Grove. I know that's a lot of insurance talk. The board like to ask me any questions about what our experiences have been with United Healthcare Blue Cross, what our recommendation might be moving forward.
I would like to hear your recommendation, yes.
Well, number one, myself and my team have we have transitioned a lot of groups from Blue Cross to United Healthcare. They're a quality carrier. They're highly rated. So they are a quality alternative to Blue Cross Blue Shield of Illinois. However, Blue Cross Blue Shield, they have about 75% of employer-sponsored plans in and around Chicago. They are frankly, the gold standard for health insurance here in Illinois and especially Chicago. And from an employee experience perspective, if there is one knock to United Healthcare, is that they are notoriously slow for approving procedures for staff members. Not to say that they won't pay it, but oftentimes when someone needs to get something expensive done, so imaging or x-rays or an MRI, something like that, oftentimes the physician needs to pre-certify or get a pre-authorization from the doctor to the insurance carrier to be able to get that procedure covered. Blue Cross is known to do that efficiently and quickly. United Healthcare is known to be slow and deliberate about it. And that is always a negative experience for the employee, employer, and for us as well. United Healthcare is maybe not considerably less expensive, but it is less expensive. So I think it's important to consider it. But I think when taking a look at the Blue Cross Blue Shield options, maybe make an adjustment here or there by taking a look at option 1 or option 2. And also increasing the employee contributions incrementally, which we have done every year. I think that can also make Blue Cross look very attractive.
What do people think of the choice plan? Blue Choice? Blue Choice Plus.
If your doctor is in Blue Choice, people love it. If your doctor is not in Blue Choice, people are not too enthusiastic about it. But what I like about it having both networks is that it's not only Blue Choice. So you're not only forced to go to a much smaller network, you can still go to every doctor you see today, and the premium is less expensive. So we've had a lot of success putting in these kinds of plans where you have a tiered network approach. But it is important for employees to know that Blue Choice is not PPO, and it's significantly different.
So you said it was an extended, deliberate sort of process with United. Is there problems with payments, or is it just the process?
It's the process to actually get the payment.
But
So-
they will sort of approve it at the same way that you, I mean, the end result is approximately the same.
Yes, yes.
So you can't get the procedure, though, till you do the approval.
That would always be my recommendation,
Right,
because if you
okay.
get it done and they don't approve it, or it's not considered medically necessary, something like that, then you're on the hook for it.
Yeah, okay.
Okay, any other questions for Michael?
Can we get email and phone number and call you after we've looked through it if we have any more questions?
Absolutely. Yeah.
Thanks.
So there's a Blue Choice PPO. And like you said, there's a higher deductible if they go outside of Blue Choice.
Correct.
They could still go,
Yep.
but there would be a higher deductible, but whatever you paid in already under Blue Choice applies to the other deductible.
Exactly. Yep.
Okay.
This one, Blue Choice PPO. Is that the right one? Page 4, 3.
Other questions for Michael? Thank you, Michael.
Okay.
Thank
Blue
you.
Choice PPO. Yeah,
Are you
thank you.
sticking around?
Thank you.
That'd be great. Okay, reports, assessors report, Connie?
15% increase, which we budgeted for.
Thank you, Connie.
Yeah, it's getting busy. We opened today 4 Board of Appeal complaints. We've scheduled 2 outreach programs that will be going on. I'll get you the dates because we're going to send out emails and robocalls to our taxpayers to let them know that that's going to be taking place, but that'll be on, just double check so I give you the correct information. Commissioner Patlack will be joining us October 4th here in this hall from 6 to 9, and also on October 18th, same place, same time, with Commissioner Patlack. My staff will also be available so that we can file complaints at that time. We do this as a convenience for our taxpayers who can't get in during normal business hours. You have my report, written report, but there have been some activities from the meeting from the Cook County Township Assessors Association on Friday. A couple of things that I think are important. Obviously, in the report, I brought to your attention the governor signing property tax relief, which was huge. What I didn't have room to really tell you about was that this was a bipartisan effort. You saw a little birthday card in the packet. I got a letter from a constituent in 2012. And basically, he was concerned about the fact that when he turned 70 and a half, he had minimum distribution requirements for his IRAs. And that put him over the income limitation, and he lost his senior freeze. So this was something that, and actually I have a copy of the letter if you want to see it. I have been dealing with this gentleman since 2012. And I can tell you that with the concerted effort of the Cook County Township Assessors Association, that was taken up as far as the raise on the senior freeze income ceiling. So there was motivation there. But it's not just the association. This was bipartisan. This was also spearheaded by Assessor Barrios. It was passed by both houses, signed by the governor. The one other thing that I would bring up about this is that we had one other thing that concerned us, and that was with diminishing property values when the market fell apart. We had people who were on the senior freeze who actually got no discernible benefit from the freeze. Again, working through the association and with Senator Don Herman, part of that legislation now says that even if market values go down and there would be no benefit to the freeze, there is now a $2,000 benefit for the person with the senior freeze that would be coming off of their EAV. So we're very proud of that because it was insane to have an exemption with no benefit whatsoever. So that's some of the things that have gone on through the organization. I would also add that at that meeting, we will now be doing name changes, and it will be official next month for the Cook County Treasurer's Office. So that will be another advantage to our taxpayers so that we know that when we do them, they're in and will be inputting directly into the system. So that's kind of an exciting addition to our workload. And as a final aside, it was passed by the executive board of the Cook County Township Assessors Association that the statistical report format that was developed by myself and my staff will now be the official data reporting for all of the township assessors. Any questions?
Thanks, Connie.
Thank you.
Clerk's report, George.
All right, there was, just going down quick, there was no FOIA requests this last month. A couple new laws to be aware of. You can look down, you can read this a little later, is the prevailing wage, just how we post prevailing wage rates, what we're required to do. The Local Government Consolidation, Public Act 1017, which talks about the consolidation, how townships can be consolidated. Number 3 is the township's ability to accumulate funds. It sets now what that excess can be. And then the automatic voter registration, it was written into law the other day. Rauner signed it in, and I'll keep you informed. It's going to take a while for that to be implemented, but I'll keep you informed as that goes along. And then the only other thing is, as you know, we're going to have to take a roll call vote on the closed session. And finally, a reminder to everyone that that there's a sunrise connection in Mount Prospect on October 6th. It's in the morning now instead of the evening. So, I encourage you to go if you're free. Any questions on these? If you have any questions on these bills, what I'm trying to do is point out the FOIAs, point out any new laws that came into effect that will affect us, and then we'll mention any sort of developments that we need to be aware of in terms of how the meetings are handled or run, and then this is just a comment. So
And what time is the sunrise connection? I'm not getting
it's
any of these.
7 o'clock on the 6th at the public library.
Okay.
Any questions for George? All right, Highway Commissioner, Art.
I emptied the folder.
Invited.
Board has my written
Look at him,
report,
okay.
which summarizes last month. Basically, in a nutshell, the road construction season will be winding down another month or two. but the winter driving season will be starting, so we're preparing for that.
Any questions for Art?
Great report.
Thanks, Art.
Thank you.
I have nothing else to add except just to point out that all the reports, the transportation, GA, and employment center, transportation, financial records are all in your board packets. If anybody had any questions? These are longer meetings. I don't know if the board would indulge like a 3-minute break.
Sure.
Can I have a motion to have a 3-minute recess?
So moved.
Moved by trustee Kashaba,
Second.
second by trustee Saturn. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. I'll call the meeting back to order. Ask the clerk to call the roll.
Trustee Kashaba,
Present.
trustee Saturn,
Present.
trustee Narodowski,
Present.
supervisor Sweeney.
Present. Okay, there's no correspondence. Last month, we discussed under old business an RFP to audit firms for Elk Grove Township fiscal year starting 2018-19. Did anybody have any questions about the RFP?
That's going to go out here.
The only thing, if we were to accept this, the only thing that I would change is to the date from November 3rd to December 1st. I think that's November 3rd was the
Okay.
first Friday in November, and I think December 1st is the first Friday in December. So that would be my only recommendation. I don't know how the board felt about the rest of the language in the RFP. So just moving forward, how we envision this, we'd get RFPs, and then the board would decide how to move forward, whether to have interviews or to hire somebody outright. But these are just to, and what we would expect is for send RFPs out to the chambers of commerce, our connections through any of the township organizations to find out what other townships use, any contacts that you might have. The goal is to send this far and wide so that we can get a number of bids to choose from, not bids, but proposals to choose from, so. Any other comments, questions?
So do we want to approve this so we can move
Well,
forward
that's,
with it?
yeah, I mean, that's what if we could, then we could just, with that amendment, if we could, that way we'd get more time to send it out. So if I could have a motion to approve the RFP with the amendment to have the proposals due December 1st.
So moved.
Moved by trustee Saturn. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Seconded by trustee Nuredowski. Any further discussion? A roll call, please.
Trustee Kashaba,
Aye.
trustee Saturn,
Aye.
trustee Narodowski,
Aye.
and supervisor Sweeney.
Aye. Motion carries. Okay. Authorization for payroll and bills. You've had a chance to review the bills. Any questions about any of those, payroll or bills?
No.
Okay. Can I have a motion to approve the payroll and bills as presented?
So moved.
Moved by trustee Saturn. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by trustee Nuredowski. Any further discussion? Roll call, please.
Trustee Kashaba,
Aye.
trustee Saturn,
Aye.
trustee Narodowski,
Aye.
and supervisor Sweeney.
Okay, aye. Moving forward to new business, just something we have to do just to accept the audit report that was presented to us. Frank left, but there was any other additional comments anybody wanted to make about the audit? Okay. Can I have a motion to accept the audit report?
So moved.
Moved by trustee Saturn,
Second.
seconded by trustee Nuredowski. Any further discussion? Roll call, please.
Trustee Kashaba,
Aye.
trustee Saturn,
Aye.
trustee Narodowski,
Aye.
and supervisor Sweeney.
Aye. Okay, in the recommendations from Costabile and Steffens from the audit, Paul sent out a audit deficiency memo just to discuss the corrections that were made. All the items were, had been either fixed previously in the new budget year or changed when the recommendations were made, all except for the increase in capital assets, the capitalization policy, because that's a board decision. So did anybody have any questions about that memo?
No.
Okay. All right. Okay, all right, so along with those recommendations, like I said, the capitalization amounts currently at 500. The auditor recommended 5,000. If you'd like to know why that's important, I'm sure either Trustee Costabile or Frank could talk to you about it, but I know, I don't know, Andrew, if you wanted to maybe explain for us, if you could give us a little help.
It's just that it's a pain. You would have a much better idea because of what's going on in your budget, because you're not doing the depreciation at the end of the year. I move that we put the amount to $5,000 for capitalization.
Okay, a motion was made by Trustee Kashaba to revise the capitalization policy from 500 to 5,000. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Trustee Saturn. Any further discussion? Roll call, please.
Trustee Cachava,
Aye.
Trustee Saturn,
Aye.
Trustee Narodowski. Aye. Supervisor Sweeney.
Aye. Motion carries. Okay, 2018 health insurance. Now, we do technically have one more month. We would have enough time from our October board meeting, though. I know it would be tight, though, but we'd still have time, correct?
Yes, the deadline is end of business day on November 1st.
November 1st.
For our choices.
For your choices,
For the employer choices, and then open enrollment would begin.
would be after that, yeah.
Right. Do you know what's the date of the October meeting? Do you have that?
The October meeting?
Yes, please.
I think it's the
October meeting
23rd.
would be the 23rd.
Okay, very good, thank you. So we can do a couple things. I mean, we obviously could make a decision tonight, but obviously there's a lot to take in.
Yeah.
I don't know if we want to have at least some initial conversation so that we can kind of at least jumpstart the conversation if we want to continue it into the next month. That way we can kind of maybe mull over any initial thoughts any trustees had, and we can kind of think about it for a month and maybe ask some additional questions from Mike as they might come up.
Do you have at your fingertips the amount that we allotted in the budget, the increase from the prior year? I think I have it here.
You said it was at least 15%.
Yeah. I know it was at least 15%, but I think it was possibly more.
I could go check. You guys have
I'd appreciate it.
Initially, I'd rather stay with Blue Cross Blue Shield, maybe change up some of the plans if we need to.
Yeah, I agree. The one thing that jumped out at me, and correct me if I'm wrong, Michael, is the United Healthcare, that looks to be all composite.
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah.
So the age, like I said, the consistency in the age rated seems like that would be more equitable to all the employees, to me. That's kind of just my initial impression. That being said, the renewal for the current plan is significant. You know, one of the things I thought about it, and this is something to think about over the next month, is we offer very rich HSA benefits. We could potentially, so we don't impact the employees negatively, choose current plans or some similar plans in Blue Cross, keep the cost share of the premium the same, and, you know, we have some play in that HSA. It's very generous. Every employee at a minimum gets $2,100. So just a thought, there is some play in there if we need to bring that cost down, at least the cost to the township, is to reduce those HSA dollars, so. Other thoughts? Okay. If there's no objections, we can move down the agenda and circle back to the health insurance when Erica gets back, if that's all right.
Sure.
Okay, in executive session, we talked about 401 West Golf, bid schedule dates. We discussed Friday, November 17th being bid due dates, November 27th being bid opening date. So can I have a motion to set the bid schedule dates as such? November 17th as bids being due, and November 27th as bid opening.
For just Gulf Road, right?
Right now, this is just Gulf Road.
Okay, so moved.
Moved by trustee Saturn.
Second.
Seconded by trustee Nuredowski. Any further discussion? Roll call, please.
Trustee Kashaba,
Aye.
trustee Saturn,
Aye.
trustee Nuredowski.
Aye.
Supervisor Sweeney.
Aye. Motion carries. Okay, we also talked about bid process for potential bid schedule dates for 2400 South Arlington Heights Road. So the language, unless I misunderstood, was to set the bid schedule dates of bids being due November 17th, bid opening November 27th, contingent on the Illinois Tollway releasing us from the property restrictions. I believe that's what it was.
Yeah.
Okay. Can I have a motion to approve those bid schedule dates with that contingency?
So moved.
Moved by trustee Saturn.
Second.
Seconded by trustee Nuredowski. Any further discussion? Roll call, please.
Trustee Kashaba,
Aye.
trustee Saturn,
Aye.
trustee Nuredowski,
Aye.
supervisor Sweeney.
Aye. Motion carries. So wanted to give you some information. So we're kind of in a difficult position. We'll circle back. If you have that information.
We budgeted the same amount as we did last year, but that's because we didn't spend what we budgeted. So there wasn't an increase in the budget, but.
Yeah, it looks like we certainly have not achieved, when I look at what was budgeted, we have not gone to that
So
number.
I can get all the.
So we had
numbers
a more generous amount.
Separated by funds, so it's gonna take, so I can put together something for you guys.
But it was then under budget last year if we budgeted the same, because it's still under, looking at the percentage of, the months that we've gone through so far. Okay.
Any other questions for Erica? We want to close out discussion on that and then just spend our time the next month discussing with Erica any questions you have. And she can communicate with Michael Balin any questions. What's that?
Tabled?
What's that?
Are you tabling it, that's what we're doing?
Well, I mean, we don't really need an official table because it's going to show up on next month's meeting anyway, so we have to do it. Okay, going back, we voted on 2,400, right? Yeah.
Yeah, we did, yes. Get the Thor Guard.
Yeah, so the Thor Guard, we're in a difficult position. We have the lightning detection systems at 401 West Golf. Obviously, we're looking to sell that property, but the Thor Guard is we've been keeping it up and running as best we can. It's on its last leg. Paul is 20 years old, roughly, 21 years old.
It's the same as this one, so I think
It was about 20.
10 or 20.
Is it on?
I would
Is it
be
on there?
closer to 10, because I feel like.
Is it
it's
10?
been installed since I've been here.
Was this one older when we replaced it? Then maybe I'm thinking about that. Okay, either way, kind of need some direction here because talking about selling 401, but we're talking about doing a lease back for at least an extended period of time. With the challenge course, the way it's used,
I think so. This is the install.
I'll share my concern and then the board can kind of discuss what their thoughts might be, because like I said, this is kind of a tough decision here. The problem is we have the lightning detection equipment there now. So if we just say, well, we're selling it, we don't do anything, and over the next year, without equipment there, something happens, I'm just fearful of the liability. Now, I know it's a off chance, but that's just my concern, is that because if we never had the equipment and something happens, it's a little bit different than having the equipment, removing it, and then something were to happen. So that's my concern. I realize it's a lot of money. Now,
Is it working right now?
it's basically, we have to have quite a few maintenance calls on it now to recalibrate. Yeah, a lot of false alarms, a lot of calibration now, and it's kind of gotten to the point. Now, that being said, assuming we move to a new facility, with bike safety there, one of the Thor Guard systems would come with us.
Can we, if we buy this and have it installed, can we take the system when we sell it to the new place?
Right, so, but we have one, so
Solid?
it's about, we have two now, so we have one here, one there. Now, they're strong enough to where we don't need two on one property. Now, for buying for our purposes, we asked about a secondary market, a resale market. For us to buy, they don't have one. We've looked, I think, on a variety of different places, even on Amazon, and we can't find one that's resale. Now, my hope is that potentially we could look around and find a park district or a school that would be willing to buy it from us when we moved. And so, but I didn't know if the board wanted to go that route. I mean, we don't have to make a decision tonight, but if you did want to look at potentially making this purchase, we could make some phone calls to park districts, schools, different places and ask them if they use these, ask them if they could potentially need one in the near future, and then we could possibly resell it, after a year's time. It wouldn't be that old. So
How much is how old is the one here?
we'd have to go back and look.
It's only two? So you'd have two brand-new systems.
Right, and it just comes at an awful time, and I know it's not an easy thing, but like I said, I wanted to bring it up to your attention. Like I said, I'm willing to work with Paul to make these phone calls and see if there's, at least an opportunity for us to sell to somebody else when we're no longer, assuming we're no longer in the youth services building. But I need your thoughts on if we just want to just not worry about it, or if you want us to make these phone calls, you want us to make the purchase now. I just need some direction.
I would rather err on the side of caution.
Just meaning?
Meaning, I think we should replace it. I think it'd be great if we could make calls and see if we could find someone, who is interested in buying one of them.
No, I mean, I agree with you. I mean, it's, like I said, it's a lot of money, but like I said, I kind of penny wise, dollar foolish, if something, God forbid, were to happen. That's, like I said, that's just my concern. But
Yeah, every school and every park around here has them, so I would feel uncomfortable having classes with students outside and not having this. That doesn't seem responsible.
Any other thoughts? Sue Ellen, would you like to make a motion?
Sure.
I mean, like I said, we don't have to, I'm not trying to
No.
force you into a decision. We don't have to make the decision tonight. I'm just,
Is the course being used right now?
what's that?
Is the course being
Still
used?
being, yes. Mhm.
And then,
And then it'll be.
you know,
in the
you got a
spring,
problem,
yeah.
we've discussed it here.
Yeah.
If we're gonna do it, we should do it.
Okay. I make a motion that we approve the purchase and installation of the new Thor Guard system.
Okay. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded, moved by trustee Saturn, seconded by trustee Kashaba. Any further discussion? Roll call, please.
Trustee Kashaba,
Aye.
trustee Saturn,
Aye.
trustee Narodowski,
Aye.
And Supervisor Sweeney.
Aye. Motion carries. Okay, last item on the agenda, consideration of legal counsel for Township Trustees. Trustee Kashaba.
Yes, I thought it's provided that if there are 3 trustees that would like to seek legal counsel outside the township attorney, that they can do so. And it would be paid for by the township. However, this would be only legal counsel due to conflicts between the trustees and the supervisor. So I'd like to hear a discussion.
I've done some work on this to see what the legal standing is, and trustees can hire, you have a township attorney who is responsible for the corporate legal matters, the township legal matters, and that he can be reached out to by any of the elected officials regarding any township activity, work-related items. Trustees can also hire on their own a private attorney anytime they want. And then where it gets blurry is that if there's a majority of the board agrees, they can hire an attorney and vote to have the township pay for it. But where it gets blurry is if it becomes a personal issue and is not specifically an issue regarding township operations. So, for instance, if the supervisor was not following the budgetary process in the proper way and refused to abide by the rules and regulations or the decisions of the board, then there could be legal action. And if the township attorney was not deemed to be sufficient for the board members, they could hire another attorney to advise them, not necessarily to replace the township attorney, but to advise them. If it's a personal matter, then there seems to be differing court measures. So if it's a concern about defamation or something like that, then it becomes more questionable whether the township can charge the taxpayer for that or not, if it's personally related. I don't know, where's Jason? I don't know if you want to.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, to the extent that the township attorney is there to represent the corporate entity, which only operates through its trustees, supervisor, trustees, et cetera. So you can't usurp that, but if there's a specific issue or issues that the board, in obviously a majority vote, says we want this particular issue, they can. I will be candid, I'm not 100% sure where to draw the line between whether taxpayers are paying for that. I do agree that I think it's a bonding issue to be decided, and if it's an issue that impacts them in corporate capacity, meaning official capacity as a trustee, the answer would be, I believe, I would have to get back and give it, I don't know.
Okay, I would like to address that. First of all, I know that you're the township attorney, all right, but to be honest with you, you are the supervisor's good friend. And when the trustees may be at odds with the supervisor, I don't really think, and especially because I know you're a labor attorney, that you'd also have to do more research and everything else, and with your rate, that I'd rather, my thought is, well, my desire on this is that the attorney that I've spoken to is vice president of the Illinois Township Attorneys Association. Machuzowicz and Kelly represent many municipalities and townships. And you call and they've got the answer right off the top of their head. It doesn't require they give a reduced rate for townships of only $2.25 an hour, which is less than yours because they handle so many. And we have had a lot, I think, between the trustees and the supervisor that we're at odds. And we need, some legal guidance from time to time. Now, obviously, I have talked to attorneys and everything else. I believe in speaking to this gentleman that he knows quite a bit of what he's talking about, and that the parameter would be that you would be able to talk, a trustee would be able to talk to an attorney, specifically an outside attorney that is not the township attorney, it's not to replace you or anything else, when there is a conflict with the supervisor. There are many highway department supervisors that have their own attorney because they're frequently at odds with the supervisor. So this isn't for replacement or to be abused in any way. But when there is a situation where, you know, where there are some true conflicts and some guidance is needed, and the trustees do need guidance because they're the board, this has been, I've talked to him at length about this, and that this is totally and completely acceptable.
Yeah, just briefly respond. Respectfully, and with all due respect, I agree that the township board, if they vote, can have have counsel that looks at specific issues. A couple things to address though. One in particular is this notion that, friend, what have you. The reality is, if any trustee calls me or the township attorney, whoever that may be, I have an obligation to respond to that. I represent each of you, and I have not heard, I have not heard from any other trustees. So I encourage you, if issues come up, and whether it's 3, 4, 2, make it efficient, but ask me, and I have ethical obligations to represent,
Okay.
the township and give advice. So that's just number one. Number two, our firm does have a lot of resources that relates to different issues, whether it's municipal law, environmental, or what have you. So I agree with you, and I just wanted to make that point.
First of all, we're not going to call anyone for environmental issues or anything else, okay? However, no matter what, there is a conflict, okay? If someone calls you and says, hey, I'm having a conflict with the supervisor and everything else, you're his friend. And you're looking through those eyes and everything else. Did you by any chance tell him how to write that letter that he wrote to me
First of all,
on June 26th?
First of all, I would not get in any specific conversation with anybody here, including yourself, because I
Okay.
represent the township. So that would be waiving
Okay.
attorney-client privilege.
Okay, but all I can say is that if you did, okay. But the point being is that this happens, and this happens in many townships where there can be a conflict, and like I said, nothing abused, nothing like it's going to be all the time or anything else. But obviously, everyone has seen how contentious this board is, and sometimes a war zone. And I'm sorry that the trustees have to, I believe that we've been undermined, and I believe that we have got to be able to seek some advice on, on these matters when there is a conflict with the supervisor. That's all.
Yeah, and I just said that is your right, and as a majority of the board, you can do that. All I'm saying is that, again, I am here at the entire board. And so if there is an issue, before saying it's a conflict or if there's an issue that's in dispute, come to me collectively, ask for that issue to be addressed, and I'd be happy to. That's all I'm saying.
I think a conflict would be quite evident to any of the trustees.
Well, I
We
think,
wouldn't have to ask if
Andrea, I
it
think
was a
too,
conflict.
I think also too here is that I had not reached out to Jason that much until, on a couple occasions, but recently, with all the activity that's been on, I wanted to make sure I had the facts right before I came into the meeting. And I found that he's very straightforward and very responsive and not particularly take sides in any way whatsoever. And I don't think anyone's reached out to him before, so I recommend that you try and use his resources first, and then if you find that it's not adequate, then reach out otherwise. And then please keep in mind, this is the taxpayers' money, make sure it is a township issue, an actual functioning issue for the township. It's not, just doesn't become some just, you get an attorney, he gets an attorney, and the taxpayer's paying from it because you're mad at each other.
Actually, we'd be saving money because they would be far more efficient since they are much more, they know so much more about township government. It's one of their specialties, so to speak, and the rate is less.
I'm
We've
just
already
saying,
have
there's
mountains
certain
of
things you
legal
can
bill.
pay money for and certain things you may not be able to. Make sure that you don't get yourself
shall.
in trouble in terms of what you approve when you use the taxpayers' money. That's all.
I shall, but like I said, it would actually save taxpayers money because if he went to him, his fee is much higher. So, and like I said, these people, this firm does tons of townships, municipalities. This particular gentleman, Jim Kelly, has spoken at township officials of Illinois, in Springfield many times. He has spoken for the trustees division of TAC. So I'm just saying that this would save money ultimately. If we have to call Jason, who knows, there might be a $1,000 bill, you know what I'm saying?
What I'm saying. There are some things you can't have him do or an outside attorney unless you pay for it yourself.
I'm aware of that.
That's all I'm saying.
But like I said, this is known, this has already been explained to me. I made the motion, which I would like to give now, very
Can
specific.
I ask 2 questions?
Sure.
Okay, I just have 2 questions. One is, in the past, we had an attorney, and then the supervisor wanted to bring on Jason, so we had 2 attorneys. And then, unfortunately, later, the first attorney passed away. But for quite a while, we had 2 attorneys. And I don't know how they chose who they talked to, but could we not do that again?
No, that's fine. Look, if for whatever reason, I mean, it's, you know, the only thing I would say is, I said, a tax on me is fine. I said I would hate to impugn Jason's reputation by saying he would give bad advice.
I didn't say
because
that.
I know him. I think he would. I've called him up before. He's given me plenty of opinions I don't like. So it has nothing to do with that. The only thing that I would ask is that this item was added to the agenda Friday afternoon. And I hadn't received any information regarding the topic. The only thing that I would ask is that it just be tabled until some additional material, just the legality, who you spoke to, different things. I like to do my homework before I vote on something. And so if we could just table it until whenever, next month, that's fine. I don't feel comfortable voting on something that was added to the agenda Friday and I've received no information about. That's all, and I'm not
Here's
saying
my
no.
second question.
I'm not saying no, I just need information.
Even beyond that, I'm not, once again, I don't vote, you guys vote, but I would want to make sure we had a legal opinion before you approved an attorney, that you know if there's restrictions that go with it, that you can approve it and say, yes, we have, the trustees have an ability to engage or retain an attorney for the following actions, reasons, not just because they have a problem with the supervisor, but what specifically can be used for. And I don't think we know that, what those regulations are.
If you heard the motion, you would know that the motion is for issues of conflict with the supervisor. We do not give this person a retainer or anything else.
No, I don't know what you mean by interest. I'm just trying to avoid us getting in a situation of spending my conflict, but if that's a personal conflict, if you and he just having a personal difference of opinion, the taxpayer shouldn't be paying for that.
That is not what is said here. If there
You have not defined it, Andrea. It needs to be defined.
I will take, go ahead. Thank you. Well, one of my questions was if we had to have a person on retainer. You said no. And I should know this, but are you on retainer or we just pay you hourly? Okay, thank you.
Okay.
So if we get some definition to what it is, or maybe we find out they can do anything.
How more specific need I be, okay?
Saying that it can be, you could be specific by saying that they can retain the attorney for issues that relate specifically to, I don't know what it's related specifically to.
What, that I'm in an argument or something? I will tell you one thing that was disturbing is getting a letter. Okay.
Yes,
demanding
Andrea,
my phone, all this stuff and everything else and
All I'm saying is define this.
I called the attorney, and of course, I paid for that personally, okay? And I called him and I said, "What's up with this?" And he said, "This is ridiculous." And he wrote a letter to comment. Now, was that a personal
No, Andrea, I'm not here to deal with individual issues. I'm only saying that if you open the purse to spend money for an attorney, make sure you've done the homework to know what is you can spend that money on and what you can't, according to rulings and according to the law. I don't think we know that yet. So before we pass a motion saying that we can spend this money, let's get it defined and get a legal opinion that says this is what the money can be spent for.
Do you have, all right, then what's going to happen between now and this month where virtually every month there's some blow up or something, and it's the supervisor who
I think the
is-
meeting went very nice tonight. I think everybody managed to go pretty well. Let's
Yeah, until we
be
got to this
adults and just
issue.
move forward
No,
and make
this-
sure we're
Well,
taking care of the
well, I'm
kids.
not, in
I
all
am
fairness, I'm not
fearful-
blowing up.
I'm fearful about what could possibly happen this month when something comes up, when, heaven forbid, he says something privately or says something to one of the
You
trustees.
can call a special meeting.
That can
You
be
can call a special meeting
inflammatory
and you can pass
or
this then.
threatening, and this
but then we
can't
have to
stand.
You can call a special meeting then and you can pass this on that point. I'm
Right.
just saying, take,
I'm not gonna call a special meeting where we're gonna have to charge, the
$1,700.
$1,700 to have it
so
videotaped.
instead, you just want to open the wallet for whatever needs of the, I just,
That is not what I said, George.
but you,
These are specific with issues of conflict with the supervisor. Specifically, there aren't issues constantly between the trustees and the supervisor.
but you don't, I'm not saying that.
This is
I'm
something that
saying
on occasion,
there are some things
he
you
will
may
be
not
called-
be able to spend the money
Well,
on that.
good, then if that is not covered, then the person would just have to pay it, the individual trustee. How's that?
All right, that's fine. Then if you do
Okay.
it, when it's found it's not,
All
then you
right.
just pay out of your pocket.
That's
then, I guess.
fine. Okay, I'd like to make my motion, please. All right? I move that the board approve the ability for trustees to seek outside legal counsel, comma, due to conflicts specific to issues of conflict with the supervisor.
Could you write that up and give that to me so I can
Yes.
put it in there?
Okay. Motion was made by trustee Kashaba.
I have a question. Is it any council or one person we can go to? Just after hearing your motion.
I am suggesting this person, all right? And it doesn't have to be this person, it's just legal counsel, but this person because
So
of
it
their
can be
knowledge
any
in
person.
township. Well, any attorney.
Any attorney.
But this particular attorney is who I was recommending because of the amount and because, and you've seen him speak and everything else, and because of his vast background in township government, that he'd know there wouldn't have to be research and these other things, it would be, quickly taken care of.
I'd kind of like to make it broader and not just with the supervisor.
Okay?
I mean, what if there's another issue that comes up?
With Connie, I knew it.
Well, with other specific to issues of conflict with other elected officials or
With,
with
Yeah,
other
I think
elected
that'd be
officials
good,
in
yeah.
the township?
And do you want to say the specific attorney? Because otherwise you're leaving it open to any attorney with any rate
I
fee.
think we
Any,
better
any,
put the
I mean, it could be a
attorney
guy
in
that
there.
charges
All
$1,000
right,
an
then,
hour.
okay, fine. Then we'll put this James P. Kelly with Machusewicz and Kelly. Officials in the township.
okay, yeah.
Okay, and like I said, his name is James Kelly, and his fee is $225.
So is it both of those people are township attorneys, or you're
Well, I'm
recommending
saying
one?
him, but
Okay.
Machusewicz also does.
You want to read it now that it's changed?
Okay. I move that the board approve the ability for trustees to seek outside legal counsel, comma, due to conflicts specific to issues of conflict with other elected officials in the township.
Should this be elected officials, not just trustees?
No, this
Motion,
is just on trustees.
Okay.
a motion has been made.
Second.
Seconded by Sue Ellen. Any further discussion? I will just reiterate my concern that this item was added Friday afternoon. I have not had a chance to review anything. Bob's not here. It involves trustees. I would just respectfully ask the board to vote down this motion and then vote to table it till next month so we could have some more information, time to review anything that Andrea can provide. If this motion goes forward tonight, I'm going to vote no, not because I'm against this, but just on the record that I'm voting no because, like I said, I can't in good conscience vote on something I haven't received any information about. And And I would just say, Bob, and I don't know if any other trustees know this attorney. I don't know if you need a time to maybe you want to have a sit-down and talk to this attorney or these law firms before you decide to hire a specific attorney. Just a thought, but that's all I have.
Roll call?
Roll call, please.
Okay, Trustee Kashaba,
Aye.
Trustee Saturn,
Aye.
Trustee Narodowski. Okay, Trustees, Supervisor Sweeney.
No.
Okay.
All right. Any other items to be presented at the meeting will be considered for discussion only.
We should really start thinking about, and I know that you are, George, about this expensive cost of this audio video. And I did want to suggest that there's this camera that my son Christian told me about that is actually operated by a cell phone. And it pans and does panorama and everything else. And there's a card that goes in it that records it that is $20, each time that you would use it. And I think it might be something we want to look into. The camera's only $250.
Yeah.
And he has one that I could borrow if you wanted to see how it works.
It's, Andrea, it goes back to when we first discussed this, and actually, you were the one that said that you wanted maximum transparency. When we got into this and I looked at the cost of the equipment, and I was looking at equipment that would be appropriate both from visual as well as audio purposes. And if we're going to do this, I wanted to make sure that it was right, that we didn't have somebody holding a camera and nobody could hear anybody or anything like that. And if you remember too, we don't really need to do this. It could just be the notes in a public.
We wanted
can
only audio.
Andrea.
I didn't want video.
I'm just talking. Okay, it was basically, we don't have to have audio or visual.
That's true.
Because we have an open public meeting, and we have minutes that are approved by the board, and the only thing we're required to do is a closed meeting where we tape them. And so when the need came to tape or to videotape, and the discretion was given to me to that, I just decided to run with because we're moving to a new facility, and having an appropriate system would run $5,000 to $6,000, not a $200 handheld camera, but also because I wanted to see how this would function and how this would work if we gave it maximum transparency where people could actually see what was going on the board, because no one's going to ask for the videotape. The only way they're going to watch this, if you really want
It goes on
transparency,
YouTube.
is
You
to
can
watch
put it on
it
YouTube.
on the public TV. So we're going to do it for 6 months, and then at that point, you all could decide, okay, this is more transparency than we wanted, or this is too expensive than we wanted, and then we can move, then we can discuss what we do with on the audio side if you just want to go to audio. I did check with Elk Grove Township, as you asked me to.
Elk Grove Village.
The village, Elk Grove Village, they asked me to. They would only let us use, they only really are willing to let us use their facilities for special meetings. And then they would charge us nothing, but it was not on an ongoing basis. This was for special meetings. And it's like, for instance, we had the town hall meeting or something like that, or a special town meeting for the schools when we were looking at selling property, they would be willing to do that, but not on an ongoing
Who
basis.
did you talk to?
What's the gentleman's name again? Paul? Kelly? Russ. He's the audiovisual guy.
Well, I mean, we wouldn't have to go there. They
Yeah,
have,
you would have to go there.
there's equipment that can,
Yeah, they said we had to go there. They're not gonna come bring it over here. So that was, we've done this 3 months, we have 3 more months, and then at that point, we revisit the issue, and we either don't do anything, we go back to the minutes in the open meeting, or we do some sort of audio, or we stay with what we're doing. When we move to the new facility, I would assume at that point, we have to plan into the facility what it is that we want. At that point, we can build into the facility an audio system that really works properly, or we can build in a audiovisual program that works very effectively and efficiently.
so who was the person in Elk Grove Village you spoke to, Paul?
I believe his name is Russ.
Russ,
Right, that's it.
what is it? Ross Rowe, he works with Channel 6, and who spoke with him, Paul or
Paul
you?
did. I tried to call him, and he called Paul.
So just Paul, okay, thank you.
All right?
But as always, well, I mean, I want to step on your toes. We did agree to a 6 months, but if any time,
Yeah, we could.
at any time, any board member wanted to put it on the agenda to rescind it, I mean, it's, nothing's stopping you. The 6 months was something that we thought was at least seemed like a good trial period to just get a real feel for it.
We have a 6-month contract,
No,
right?
no, the reason it was more expensive is because it was month to month. We did internally, George proposed a 6 months, nobody objected, just because, it's really, it probably takes some time. I mean, I've been pleasantly surprised that, I think we have well over 500 views on YouTube, so the transparency,
You were
I
right,
think
you were right on that, Andrew.
I actually, yeah, I do. I commend you, Andrea. It really was, it was a great thing, and I think that we're being, this unit of government that's often overlooked is being accessed, and I think it's a really good thing. Now, a longer-term contract with Laurel, who we use now, if we find another solution, look, there's no loyalty to any particular company or anything like that, but obviously, longer-term contracts drop the price. But like I said, I've been pleasantly surprised with the traffic that we've had on YouTube in the short time that we've done this. So.
How low could we get the monthly cost if we had a long-term contract?
2-year contract, I believe, was $1,500. But like I said, I mean, that was based on we had 60 days to implement it. So it was from May was it decided, July it was supposed to be implemented. So we wanted to do it right, and the idea, at least the premise, was to go to the municipalities around here to find out how they did it, who they would recommend. The Elk Grove Village, Mount Prospect, they do it in-house. I don't know if we heard back from Rolling Meadows, but we got a strong recommendation from Arlington Heights for Laurel, and that's why we went with them. But like I said, nothing set in stone. We're not in any contract.
Month to month.
It's month to month. If there's other resources out there, like I said, the production value of what we have now, like I said, it's clear, it's easy for others to access it. You can hear it, you can see it, you know what's going on, the agendas are on there. We've had, like I said, over 500 views. So, like I said, I think it was a really good idea, and like I said, it's working. Any other items to come before this board? Okay, can I have a motion to adjourn?
To adjourn.
Moved by trustee Kashaba,
Second?
seconded by trustee Saturn. All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carries.